Record button if you like. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project, how the heck are you? We have the legendary Wayne Steiger with us. Now, Wayne is discussing some incredible lost time phenomena that happened recently. He did a podcast on it, podcasted about it, and has received hundreds of email responses from people around the world that are saying, hey, I had the same thing happen to me. It was at about the same time or at the same time. And I oftentimes slip time zones, and that's actually a term that I've been using, but that's just because I'm a conspiracy scientist and I do some weird experiments sometimes out here in the Rocky Mountains. So really excited to have Wayne on the program. We're going to talk about that. And also I think you said a seismic wave, like a very interesting seismic wave. I think that's fascinating. And folks, real quick, I want to let you know about a great opportunity that there is right now. If you go to patriotflashlight.com, you can pick up the ultimate flashlight that is also solar battery bank. It requires no batteries. You can plug your cell phone into it, etc. And as long as you've got solar power, you have yourself a ridiculously bright flashlight, a multi-tool, a glass breaker, a wire cutter, a rope, and a battery bank. Go to patriotflashlight.com, get a 50% discount, and use the code LEAKPROJECT20, get an additional 20% discount for a total of 70% off. Amazing Christmas gift. Everybody's got to have one. Okay, quick shameless plug. You'll be glad you bought it. Trust me. All right, Wayne. I said that as fast as I could.
You did great.
Good. Did I keep that within a minute? I hope so.
Man, I tell you, we called that back when I was in production. That was a one take.
Well, good, because people are like, Rex, you've sold out. You're now selling flashlights, you bastard. How dare you have sponsors? I mean, they like freak out. They're like, we don't even want to hit the fast forward button. It's like, listen to the listen to the radio. You'll get 35 minutes of radio, 25 minutes of ads. You can't hit the fast forward button. You can hit the fast forward button here. I'm just saying. Anyway, nanu. What is going on, my friend? Let's dive in. This is incredible.
So, big changes. To digress a second, the universe, our solar system, every planet is warming up. It's official. Neptune is no longer in its orbit. And here's the thing. Uranus is now on its side. Jupiter has changed frequencies. Now, these are all things you can find in Physics Today and other journals. So we're seeing dramatic changes. If Earth had the same degree increase by percentage that Mars has, we'd be looking at temperatures on Earth right now of about 150 degrees. So Venus is slowing down, but yet its wind speeds are speeding up. So dramatic changes happening to the solar system. And then on November 11th, 2018, the world experienced what seismologists are now saying is the same kind of percussion you would get with a hollow bell. But this went around the Earth, lasted 20 minutes, shallow, 6.2 miles underneath. And now the news was released this morning that what makes this even stranger is that it was called a vertical compound seismic wave. Seismic waves oscillate because they're going through different mantle, different rock, etc. This one did not. This one was very specific, very narrow, and it never deviated around the world.
So first of all, you said I've got several questions. So let me go back to the first one because this is a lot of information that I haven't heard before. You said that Uranus was on its side. First of all, that doesn't sound like fun. Hello, and damn, Uranus is on its side again, man. I told it to stay put, but that swamp gas. Where did you get that information?
Actually, anyone can go here. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint that I actually did so you can actually see what I am talking about. So these are recent pictures that give me a chance. Here we go. And let me pull this up and I'll share this with the audience.
How would you like to see Uranus on its side, ladies and gentlemen?
Hey, baby.
Are you ready?
It's a side crack.
It's intense.
It's intense. Let me see. I don't think you can see. That's the wrong one.
Is this yours?
This is mine, and I actually produced these. So here we go. These are the latest pictures that we have from our solar system. By the way, the great mystery we have, most people think that this is the way the solar system works. This is not. You have to understand, Earth is moving at 167,000 miles per hour. The sun is moving at 540,000 miles an hour. The Milky Way is moving at 1/16 the speed of light. This is what we're really moving through space like. So try to begin to see a whole different reality of how we actually travel through space. And it brings in a whole new concept of, well, what's happening potentially to our solar system. We have what we call the plane, which is what we would call the straight line going through the galaxy. But here's the problem. Our sun is changing. Mercury is changing. This is Mercury, by the way, in the full light spectrum. Isn't that beautiful? Venus, I told you, it's slowing down. Here's the latest one. Now the Russians are sending up a new reconnaissance to it. I think we're going to be sending one up. Something's happening to Venus that they can't answer at all. Besides it slowing down in rotation, by the way, the Earth is as well. But Venus is really doing it on steroids.
Who's saying this about Venus, Wayne?
This is NASA, ESA.
Okay. Yep. So multiple space agencies are saying that Venus is acting weird. And I'm just interrupting here for a second because it makes me think of all the research I've been doing with Venus lately and the several thousand years ago information where Velikovsky presents it was actually Venus that caused major cataclysms in the past. Venus could have been the planet X that many people refer to that was about 3,600 years ago that was ejected from Jupiter. And there are actually religious beliefs in the Mayans, as well as the Jubilee being every 49 years. Some experts believe that that's really close to the 52-year cycle of what Venus, when thousands of years ago, when Venus was ejected from Jupiter, acted like a comet, caused major chaos on this planet, hence the name Lucifer, the fallen star in astrotheological aspects. So I'm wondering, here's where I'm going with this. I'm wondering if Venus is getting ready to do something crazy again and start, wow, this is deep. Please continue. This is very deep.
The other thing about Venus, thank you, is that it does not have a magnetic dipole like Earth does, like all the rest of the planets. This magnetic signature is that more akin to a comet than it is to a planet. This is Earth. Now Mars.
That's what Velikovsky says about that being a comet. Yep.
Yep. And anyone should get that book, Colliding Worlds in Colliding Collision. I think.
Worlds in Collision, yeah.
Thank you, sir. So here's Mars. Now we're finding out that Mars has water. We're finding out that the great scar, the chasm on it, is now that they're admitting to, it looks like it's a plasma event. Just yesterday, I was watching a program. They have confirmed that there have been at least 2 sites on Mars that have now been confirmed as nuclear explosions. They have all the radiation, the isotope signature. Something happened here. Jupiter, we have seen the great red eye, the storm that lasted for hundreds and hundreds of years. Within the last 10 years, not only change, dissipate, but literally morph. We see Jupiter is heating up. Its poles are becoming much more active. The strangest thing about Jupiter is that it's collecting moons at the rate of about 9 a month. So Jupiter is going through tremendous changes through it. And here is one of the recent pictures. As you can see, this is not the same Jupiter that we knew. Saturn. Saturn is, well, it's beyond. Sometimes the astrophysicists don't really know what to do with it. So the astronomers, this storm here, We have been able to observe over the last 500-600 years. We know it's almost exactly when it should come. It's a seasonal thing. It typically comes in every 30 years, lasts about 10, and then dissipates, then comes back. This storm, however, they're classifying as the superstorm of the solar system. It changed the entire planet. It's that intense. The list that we're finding because of Cassini on Saturn is almost becoming, as one NASA spokesman said, almost unbelievable what's happening to this planet. The other thing is that its poles, we don't understand how it has a hexagon wind pattern. That's one of the bizarre things. Now, we're also noticing as well is that the auroras are becoming much more active. There seems to be a lot more plasma activity on Saturn. Neptune, this planet is no longer in orbit. Do you see that storm, by the way, right over here? This storm is 3 times the size of Earth. It is one that is raging now. We're finding that this planet is not only out of its orbit, but now, as you can see here from the latest Hubble picture that we've got, it has rings around it. Here is the superstorm that is, well, for a gas giant, it's too hot. It's huge, and it's affected the planet. Here you can see it in multiple bands through different spectrums, radio bands, H band, CH band, and K band. Again, this storm is one, and look at the poles again on Neptune. The same thing the other gas giants are experiencing as well. We're seeing deviations in planes of orbit between Neptune and Uranus. Something's happened to Uranus. I told you, by the way, when you look at Neptune, this is when we discovered the rings around it. And much like its cousin, Jupiter, it seems to be collecting moons. Where are they coming from? Well, there's Uranus. You see it? It's turned on its side, folks. There you go. This is what's happened. We've watched this now taking place, and it's becoming much more defined. And if you notice in the 2005 picture, we're seeing these megastorms show up on these gas giants, and there it is right there. Its equators have flipped. There's the superstorms again, and we're noticing again what is now the equatorial plane of the polar regions. As you can still see, they're messed up as well. So Pluto is changing as well. We find now that there's water on Pluto. In fact, there's now a new theory out there, Rex, that actually says that we may, in fact, space may be water. So there you go. Very quickly, a little presentation on what's happened to our planets.
Nice. So, yeah, folks, definitely watch out for the shifting Uranus. It's pretty intense out there. And NASA says they want to probe deeper into Uranus than ever before. Actually, that's a true headline. So, yeah, they want to probe into Uranus deeper than ever before. Thank you, NASA. And that's actually what you're bringing up is fascinating. And what I am thinking about also, I'm going to be serious for a minute here, not just from serious, is the semantics hypothesis. And even the scripture, one thing that I really think is fascinating in the Bible that says in the beginning there was the word, I think of a vibrational frequency. I think of an energy that was created, and semantics, you can throw some sand on a piece of paper, hit a Tibetan bowl, and whatever that frequency represents will link to the actual sand, and it'll create a shape. So imagine Saturn being the same way. Imagine these different planets. For example, I used to think that, nature doesn't work with straight lines. Nature doesn't create in straight lines, but that's not true.
No.
Think about crystals. Think about crystals. Think about snowflakes. Snowflakes, these beautiful structures, never the same, or there's always that little tweak, but they're incredible straight lines, etc. And it's just this universal semantics. So maybe what we're seeing with Saturn and what you showed, that graph with the sun going that way and the planets falling, that was fascinating, Wayne. I mean, the fact that you put that together, like you did that yourself.
You can actually get that
awesome.
in graphs. They can actually generate it. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cliff High talked about the same thing. I remember having an interview with Cliff before, and he was bringing up the hypothesis of the sun being a comet. And when he brought it up before, I didn't understand the concept at first, because I was thinking of these other planets that could get close to our own that were outside of the solar system. But then when you show that, like the Planet X hypothesis or whatever, but then when you showed that graphic, if it's not in our solar system, if it's not within these specific plane or these planets following behind it, it'd be very difficult because of the speed of the sun to actually go around the sun like that. So that's incredible. And I think that validates a lot of what Cliff says. Uncle Cliff strikes again. Yeah, right on, Uncle Cliff. Yeah. So that's awesome, Wayne. I think that's amazing. And it also makes me think of the possibility of this, where you're talking about this frequency that went around the world that can't really be explained. So I want to talk more about that. But before we do, let's talk about the missing time. And folks, also, I want to let you know real quick that, one person that's actually doing a lot for the space travel community and the Space Force is President Trump. Whether you love him or you don't, extremely controversial, he is doing a lot towards this space program. And there's a great deal right now on Trump silver coins. Just go to TrumpCoin2020.com. Use the code LeakProject, get a $5 discount. They're silver. They're limited. They're controversial. Send one to one of your family members that's a Democrat. So it'll like freak them out because they won't know what to do with it. They'll be like, but it's valuable too. I can't get rid of it. So anyway, you should check it out. TrumpCoin2020.com. LeakProject is the code. But and I'd like to give one of those away for Christmas, Wayne.
That's pretty cool.
Christmas. And I'd like to give one away to one of your subscribers. So let your channel know. I'm going to throw one their way as well. So folks, we're going to give away a couple of Trump coins. And at the end of the presentation, I will let you know who's going to get those coins. I'll keep track of the live chat here. But let's get into the missing time now.
Yes. So phase 2. So I have a second presentation that will begin to make sense of what my hypothesis is of what this missing time element that happens. So I put this together, and this is discussing getting to everyone's thinking waves. We're talking here specifically about Blazar TXX 0506 plus 056. And what we have here now is probably for the first time ever, Rex, what has happened is that we have a nova happening in our quadrant of space. And this is what they're trying to figure out. We've never had one. We've recorded them. We've seen them. I'm going to show people quite a few different views of what the different waves are. Here's one from our deep space telescope. That cloud you see is actually an energy wave. We're seeing their concepts of what the artist said, that we're really finding out this may be true. So there it is. It's right in our neck of the woods. In fact, it's close to Triangulum, the constellation. We caught the wave, and how we caught this, we caught it last year, 10 miles below the ice. We have instruments set up, and we caught the first neutrino. Never have caught that before. And when they began to investigate it and began to backtrack it, that's when we found this star that we're trying to figure out what's really going on. Now, here's the other complication. We're now finding more and more evidence that there is, in fact, these wanderers, wandering suns, planets, dark holes, gravity wells, whatever you want to call them. And what we're concerned about is what else is going to be. For the first time, Rex, it looks like Earth may be in the exact bullseye. And we don't need a gamma ray burst, but this is what I'm hearing, is that a lot are concerned. Now, we see these supernovas. We've been able to see them. This is through Hubble. We can see how they expand out. We can see that as well, that the energy seems to intensify as it moves further out from the point of origin. So the question becomes, what else? And when I talk about what else, we're talking about heavy elements, particles, cosmic rays, all of these things, gamma rays. Now, this is an actual graph that actually shows the thermal that they caught. And as you can see, this is where we began to see, this is with the first Veritas that came in. All of these begin to lead us back to what's going on. This is how deep they are. You can see they have literally hundreds of these buried deep in the ice in Antarctica. And the rarity was. So the question is, in the astrophysics community, in the astronomy community, has it gone nova? It's about only 4 or 5 billion miles away. Cosmologically, that's literally next door. Now, the thing that we're also finding out is in space now, we're finding these things called globular clusters. Now, here is a recent picture of where we're finding out, and they're everywhere. They're like globs of energy, matter. They're still trying to find what they are. This is another supernova. The following pictures are ones that we have caught. So the question really becomes, is this what we're going to be seeing next? We don't know. It's happened before. We know it's going to happen again. Here was, again, one of the jets off of TXS. So this thing is now turning out to be exactly what we had theorized as far as these cosmic jets are concerned. The question is, did the first wave that hit us, was it tied to the event of 11/11 and the missing time? The question is, are we dealing with wanderers? Now, this is from Iris. Rex, these are actually energy waves. We haven't been able to see them before because we weren't able to detect them in the different light spectrum. But we know they're everywhere. They're ribbons. As we continue to realize now that it appears that our solar system has moved 50,000 light years from where we thought we were to where we are now. And the question becomes, have we entered into a region of space, as you can see here, that with the speeds that we're moving, the collision points of opportunity are being much more increased. This is an actual energy wave from a supernova. Now, this is literally 1 billion light years across. These are huge. So the question is, where do we go? If something happens like this, there's no way to stop it. And the question is, are we entering in an area that where we're going to see more of these puppies? These are actually brown dwarfs. And this is how they come about. And the question becomes waves of frequencies. So I put this together because the question was the event that happened on 11/11, and then the subsequent times afterwards, it becomes very obvious that there's something going on. So is this next? Now, these are actual pictures as well that we have caught. So it's not like this is theoretical physics anymore. This is actual pictures of these supernovas. And the question it is right now, is it here? How big, how many, and how soon? And you can see what happens, what they can do to locations. Very quickly, stars are moved vast distances. And the question becomes, on the cosmic wave, Rex, does it hit us? Is this been 4 years in the making? This one here, that's exactly how long it took, as you can see, as it expands out. So that's the question, my friend. So just kind of.
Do you think that explains the missing time, though?
I think it does. And I'll tell you why. Because time, we can't define time. We don't know what time is. Time is only exists in conceptually. We measure time by events in our lives. And then in case in planet Earth, we've got the rotation every 24 hours, a little longer than that, and that's time. But if you were to get in a rocket ship and go 10 million miles out, that time is no longer the same time. So the question I'm asking myself, did we experience an event that not only affected the Earth, made the Earth sound like a hollow ball? Now, some people are theorizing that there's an ocean under the mantle and that we're recognizing major shifts to our planet. But my question becomes this: we haven't even been able to measure these until very recently. And to say that we can't be altered by our perception of time globally, D-wave computing, quantum computing, challenged that whole thing. When Gordy Rose in 2005 announced that they had made the breakthrough in the first quantum generated reality, and then in 2011 when they announced that they were able to go into other dimensions and bring substance back into this dimension, could we be seeing a compounded effect, what we call the Mandela effect today? Now, Rex, I experienced about 15 minutes of missing time myself, and it freaked me out. I've taken a lot of hits of LSD in my youth. This was more disorientating to me than any toxin that went into my brain that would cause for hallucinations. And I didn't know what happened, and I was shook up about it, made the video, posted it, and the next thing I know, I'm getting emails from around the world of people telling me that they have experienced missing time. Some have actually been transported from one place to the other and don't know how they got there. I've had a number of emails, Rex, of people telling me they don't belong in this time dimension. I have an email that a woman wrote me, and she says, the man that I've been married to for nearly 22 years is not the man that I married. And the kids that are in my house are not my kids. They look like it. She says everything looks like it, but she says there's something wrong. And I wish I could say that that was the only email I got like that.
So hopefully, no, I don't even know if I want to say that, but you definitely have to question some of those emails when people are saying, hey, I don't think these are my family members, but they look just like them when they're in my house and they claim to be. I mean, that sounds, you can definitely say that sounds like borderline.
I know. So you could almost say delusional.
Delusional. Yeah. I mean, not schizophrenic because that's when you're hearing voices, but but still, I mean, at the same time, there definitely could be something there. I would look at I get into some pretty deep conspiracies too, but, and definitely in the fringe aspects of things, but I also have the opposite side of the spectrum in my brain that does its best to debunk anything that I research. It's like, okay, let's either debunk it or verify it. And, I don't know. Do you think that person really is in a different time zone now? I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. What do you think about that kind of email?
She's not the only one. I've saved these emails. I've got 3 others. Like I got one guy who swears the same thing. He said he's jumped twice. And the postulation is that would we know if we did have a time dilation effect? Now there's a device out there in area S4 called the Looking Glass device. Project Aquarius, you can pull up the documentation on it. It is said that the Palladians and those from the Orion system caught this wave, caught this distortion of time, and said that some of them are here working with governments. I don't know. We think of time as a linear event, Rex, but time is not linear. It's not a straight line. If we live in a 3-dimensional world, then time has to be on an XYZ axis.
I like the idea of time being a part of your consciousness almost. And it's, if you're extremely bored, sometimes time can go by very slowly. The older I get, or the longer I live on this planet, it seems to me the faster time goes from one birthday to the next. So it's definitely perspective. And I still think that it's valid. Like people say time is irrelevant, time isn't real. Oh, it's very real, but it's your perspective. It's your perception. And I've also heard about time travel. Think about being able to go into your mind and change that thought to the point of completely rewriting it. Is that how you time travel? Is that a way to time travel without the machine? I mean, it's just something I've been thinking about lately. But the time that was lost, there's a movie that came, or a TV series that was out a few years ago, and it had something to do with a few minutes of time that was lost. I didn't watch the whole series, but it looked pretty good. And oftentimes TV shows will come out before they, how do I put it? The pilot of a TV series or a movie will come out. Then years later, you'll see something that will be very similar to that, sometimes before or after. Maybe there's something to that. But also, I wonder, like the quantum computers. Let's talk about the quantum computers for a minute. The D-wave computers, and being able to tap into this quantum string to see multiple things at once, and they're getting more advanced by the day. You can actually pay some corporations, you can pay them a percent or a certain amount of money, and they will give you access to these computers. Mm-hmm. So do you think that that's changing the actual consciousness of us connected to the universe by tapping into that? Or do you think that they found a way to actually manipulate the vibrational frequency in the universe and the solar system to make the outline of the storyline to be the narrators, to be the dictators, to be the controllers of the narrative?
I had a good guy we've been exchanging. So he's a psychologist, and he was thinking on this as well. And here's the thing. Many of the studies postulate on time. Einstein had the same thing, that time is relative, which means that it has a variable to the person it's relative to. It is theorized that the time is also like filaments, strands, and each existence is within that strand. We have an internal clock that has an exact time to it. You and I, everyone here watching, we're exactly timed together. It's incredible. Now, if you alter that by 1 millisecond, you're out of phase. It is said that our time filament was fractured. Now, I don't know if man did that. I don't know if it was a result of cosmic whatever that we haven't discovered. Was an alien? I don't know. But the theory is that this fracture of this time filament is what these other entities are trying to correct, because apparently this thing is spreading. Just a theory.
Now that's interesting. I definitely like that quantum string manipulation theory possibility. That could make sense, because I've talked about the holographic universe. And if we're in this holographic universe construct, it doesn't mean it's not real. It does, the simulation theory, it's definitely real. You're feeling it, you're experiencing it. However, that's just the construct if you need something to have as an allegory or something as an idea. Now, also with that being said, if we're in this holographic imprint where everything is happening simultaneously and it's just spectrums of light that manipulate the outcome. For example, you take a hologram and you can take a piece of the hologram, then you can print up a full, you can make the whole picture from that little piece of, let's say it's just a hand, but if it's a hologram, then you're going to get the whole piece of the human. So what if with these technologies that put so much energy into these small points, such as these colliders where they're attempting to find these particles and get into different dimensions, what if that has manipulated, like you said, this fabric of time that we are in? And if it's also connected to other quantum strings where there's other beings and there's other people very similar to us, but they're just that 1 millisecond different, well, that would make the universe different. That would make everything different. So now they're all connecting to this and they're finding ways to tap into it. What if there's universes out there or complete galaxies that are they're in their last, they're dying, or they're transforming. I don't want to say dying because they will be reborn into something else, but the people that are living in that, they need to go somewhere else. Otherwise, they're going to have to transform and they don't want to. They think they're dying. So they're like, oh man, there's this place called Earth. We got to get in there. And they've just got these completely different levels of energies and technologies. What if they're so far advanced that they could use these quantum computers that are the size of a speck of dust that could then rewrite your DNA to be the node processing power that they need to become applicable again, to be able to survive, to be able to live and come into this galaxy, into this dimension. You know, you've heard about the what were they called? The Amahatra rites or magical. There was a bunch of rituals that were done by Crowley, Parsons,
yeah,
where they were tapping into these dimensions. Maybe that had something to do with it as well.
Listen, if you believe in angels or demons, that alone proves this theory much more valid, because an angel or demon is an interdimensional species coexisting in different realities at different times. You can't just simply, become transparent in this form and still exist and have consciousness of yet that where you came from. So think about that. And our history is replete with these beings. What if something happened? Now, it's contended that we did it. We did something. We screwed it up. And this whole thing, again, the Mandela effect. How do we describe this? How do we describe, again, people? And I've been thinking about this more and more. I mean, as I started reading email after email, there's a group in Missouri. They take tours on, I think, the penitentiary there that's been shut down, paranormal tours. One woman told me, she says, I'm telling you, she says, we found a time vortex. And it happened to her in a group. I think she said there was 7 in her group. And then it happened into another guy who led another tour. They went in this back door to this penitent, not the insane asylum. And she said the next thing they know, they had flashlights shining in them. And the other tour was behind them saying, you guys got to hurry up. There's people waiting to get through. And she said, we just got here. Well, they lost over an hour. Another group that experienced the same thing, they lost over 15 minutes. They don't know what happened to it. But story after story, I read a story of a person in Germany who said that she was getting up, was taking a shower, and the next thing she knew, she was at her on the transit heading out, and she said, that's not like me. Story after story. I've heard people that they were at an intersection and they looked, and the next thing they were in another port of the road and no time had moved at all. So it tells me that what I think we're experiencing here is a time dilation.
Now, that also would be, if you're in a simulation type scenario where it can be reprogrammed in an electric universe, we were talking about that earlier, this plasma discharge, et cetera, if there's a way to rewrite things at the quantum level. But I'm attempting to grasp what's next. What do we do next? What's the purpose? If we are in a altered time, maybe something happened to where this is how we have to survive in order to get, but does it matter? I mean, we're still here. We're still breathing. We feel, things are, if they're different, are they? So the question is now what?
Well, there's a book I'd highly recommend you read, Rex, called Phoenix Rising. Get this book out. So the shaman, No Eyes, she has passed on to the other side, but through her ability to meditate into the astral plane, she took her apprentice, who was Mary Summerrain. They were able, apparently time is a conduit. And as a spirit being, we are immortal, Rex. If you and I and the rest of the audience here are in fact spirit beings, we are immortal, which means time cannot affect an immortal being. An immortal being has no reference to time. That's why we're here. We're experiencing time. But for an immortal spirit, it doesn't exist for us. And apparently there is a conduit where spirits go that you can actually jump into a period of time and jump back out of a period of time. And it's fascinating read. She gets much more detail in it. But what if it is, in fact, time is a conduit? And what if it is, in fact, on a multidimensional plane? We think on one plane, but I'm contending, my friend, we can't exist in the 3D world and not have 3D time. Now, Einstein said that you can't go backwards in time. I don't know if that's true. Einstein said you couldn't get to C. He never said you could travel faster than C. It's just that we couldn't get there. Well, we're now finding out that may not be true. But anyway, the evidence, Rex, is just so, it's the empirical evidence. Did you take statistics in school?
No, I avoided school. I actually, yeah. What is that?
Yeah. So, in statistics, you have the ordinal value, the nominal value, and then the means value. And so the sampling rate is that I look at my audience and I can see how many views it's while the show is going, right? You can look at the analytics on that. When you're starting getting response rates now up into the double digits, the mid-20s, statistics says that that's no longer what they would call an ordinal value. It's a nominal value. It means it's shared amongst many other people. And these people had no way of knowing each other.
Fascinating. Yeah, that's incredible.
And I'm contending that are we seeing a collage of events coming together? Something's happening to this earth. I mean, I don't know.
What if we're becoming multidimensional beings? And that's what we're actually becoming, a higher consciousness. Therefore, we're remembering past lives and everything all at once, or it's starting to kind of meld together, and really we decide. So everything that I've said in this podcast could either be true, or it could be completely false, or it could be some of the above. Multi-choice question, etc. Yet the more, what is your truth? What are you believing? What is your time zone? What is your matrix? And when you start seeing things present themselves that are so synchronistic, you just have to ask yourself, like the other day, just a couple of days ago, actually, I was telling Kristen that I said, hey, you look like Medusa. And she says, hey. I was like, no, it's a compliment. Medusa's hot. And the very next day, now she took it the wrong way, man. She's like,
I can't imagine why.
I'm like, hey, Medusa's sexy. You just can't look at her without sunglasses. But I've got sunglasses that are, they're approved. But I said that. And then I've been talking a lot lately about the Greek gods and the connection with planets. And so I get this comment, it's bizarre how I'll get comments of things that I'm thinking either just minutes later or the next day or an hour later, but it's almost spooky. It's like the AI is listening to what I'm thinking, and it's a bot that's in there like writing what I'm thinking to kind of just mess with me or something, or it's just genuinely smart people that are kind of on that same wave, and I think it's maybe a combination of both. But where am I going with this?
Well, you were saying something about, the Medusa thing, and
Medusa. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Kristen looks like Medusa, and there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I was talking about the Greek gods and the planets and how fascinating it is. You take Zeus, for example, Jupiter, and you take these different gods and goddesses that represent the planets. And this person left the comment, you're always talking about, because it was on the Sumerian podcast that I did. And they said, you're always talking about the Sumerian pantheon and the Babylonian, but you never talk about the Greek. And I said, well, that's one of the first words I said was Medusa. And I said, no, that's not true. I called my wife Medusa yesterday. So it's the universe synchronicity. And check this out before I forget this, folks. If I start getting emotional, it's a good thing. This right here is this was the day that I left Monument in the Desert, the night that I left the Monument Valley and all that fiasco that happened in Monument Valley. And I had a beautiful opportunity to meet Dorothy, a wonderful Navajo woman, and she was talking about how she recently, her father passed to the next side just a few days ago, and it was at 3:30 a.m. And then Derek Bros that set this witness in the desert situation together. He's got a tattoo on his hand that says 303. So she was telling me that she felt that was divine intervention. It was very powerful. Well, then as I'm driving, we're driving home after all the scary stuff happened, and the SWAT looking guys and their full on stormtrooper gear and stuff. And once again, they were very professional. They did their jobs. But it's when you're surrounded by people with machine guns and you're getting escorted into your hotel room by somebody that's got a bomb shield on, and people behind you that have machine guns. It's a little bit, you haven't lived until you do that. It's like saying, have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? That's right. Without the right permits. Got to have the right permits. So I get it. But anyway, I was just there as an observer. I was there as a guest. I wasn't there to do anything wrong or to upset anybody. I love the natives. I love all people. I've got native blood running through my veins. But on the ride home, after that just great experience I had to meet Dorothy and Naomi and other people out there were so amazing. And it's about 45 minutes before I get home. It's late at night, and I decided to turn on the radio, and this is what came on. I'm only going to play it for a second because I don't want to get. But here it is. I'm going to start it at 13 seconds, and a beautiful Native American song came on right when I turned on the radio. This beautiful song, and I was like, man, this is so beautiful. I said, I wish I knew what they were saying though, because they were singing in native tongues. And then seconds later, this is what it says in English. Here we go. Did you hear that? They're telling you, I love you.
Oh,
they're telling you, I love you, is what it said.
Wonderful.
It was right after I asked that question, man. I mean, how much synchronicity is that? I don't know, but
the gods be listening.
I'll take my hat off for that one. Thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you, Divine Providence. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you are. I think you're everywhere at once. I'm agnostic, meaning I don't know what the divine is, but I certainly believe in the divine. And that's electric right there, man. So what are your thoughts on that?
I have this thought that I've been coming up more and more with, Rex. I often, now I feel totally at ease on this one. I have come to this conclusion that God is not perfect. In fact, God is very much imperfect. God doesn't really know what's going on. He's kind of she is winging it just like we are. Sometimes we get the idea that there's an all-seeing being. That's impossible. Merely because if you can say that there's an all-seeing being, then this is just merely a play. Now you can say, well, there's infinite possibilities. And that gets back to my whole point about the spirit. The spirit is infinite. The body is finite. And so I look at this with time. What if, Rex, there has been a merging, as you said earlier, of different dimensions, different realities that almost look exactly like this? And what if, in fact, we're having people that are actually doing exactly what the angels? Can I go, I was a Christian for 40 years, studied it and everything else. The thing that fascinated me about the four Gospels is the fact that they were writing about teleportation. Numerous times in the Gospels, you will see that Jesus with his disciples were immediately transported to the other side of the lake. Many times you'll hear that he was in the middle of a crowd and then he was gone. So what are we dealing with here? Would you not say that that has the ability to trump time-space? And if a being, divine, whatever, has the ability to do that, then it tells me it's very possible.
If I can divert topics here for a second, and this is in reference to the main discussion of tonight, and this is a great question. What in the chat here, the time that you lost, Wayne, and that many people say they feel like they lost about the same time around the world that emailed you. Where do you think you went? Like, what do you think happened during that time loss? What's your gut telling you? The first thing that comes to your mind, go.
I went somewhere. I sense that. I don't know where. Yeah.
what do you think the purpose might have been? If you could, I mean, do you think it was to correct something? I mean, because if there's multiple accounts around the world at that time, there's got to be something to it.
Yeah, I think that there is. I mean, you can go off in two different directions. I believe that there's good evidence, photographic evidence, that says that there's potentially an armada up in our skies right now. Many remote viewers have said for the last decade that there is an armada standing behind the moon. This is a weird thought, but you said something earlier that really rang true, because I don't believe in reincarnation. I think reincarnation has a problem just in the numbers. However, we cannot deny that there are more souls being born now into this world than ever recorded in our written history. Something's going on. Could it be that there is an event about to happen? And here's just a wild, wild idea. I contend that there may be a lot of more people who just haven't realized it. Maybe there's an event coming that some are being, prepared for.
Like getting the downloads that they need, the information, the knowledge, the experience, and if they're not able to get it in this specific consciousness, the specific matrix, it's like you're taken into a different level real quick. Downloads, experiences, but time is also, like you said, it can be relative in the sense of your perception. And let's talk about that for a minute. Yeah. There's new technologies where DARPA is working on virtually instant downloads, and the problem is it gets really hot. They're putting these, by using heat and different technologies, almost instant imprints in your brain. Like, every time you think something new or get a new thought, you get that extra ripple in your brain. Well, imagine being able to learn entire books of knowledge in just a few seconds, but at the same time, it's very dangerous right now. So where was I going with this? Once again, I took my 5G hat off.
But let me just add on to that. So the next generation of Apple is already coming out, which is mind, controlling it with thought.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about what the Chinese have done now with CRISPR. This new human being that has been born, the twins, is not human in the sense that they're not like us. And I contend this, if AI is cognitive of this could get really weird. I mean, what if AI is insane?
Well, who trained it? And who does AI learn from? Us.
And we're insane.
And we're pretty insane. I mean, especially me. I'm probably the craziest person here. I mean, just read the chat. Right?
No, but it's true. Our species, we're a warrior species. I mean, you put two humans on an isolated planet, most likely they're going to kill each other. And it's just that weirdest part. But what if something is in fact going on? And this, begins to transcend the whole conspiracy theory, but we can't deny the evidence. I mean, look at this earthquake that happened up in Alaska. Have you seen some of the pictures of that place?
Yes.
Did you see that one that had almost like it was something happened? In fact, I have it pulled up here. Check this out. This is weird, Rex. I don't know what it is that we're looking at here, but look at that. I mean, that's just a strange looking impression, isn't it?
Yeah, and make sure, I mean, are all these
are all Alaska. Images? These are all Look at this one. You could actually see that it's, I don't know, to me, it looks like this is almost an outflow of energy, not how you would see a typical fault line.
Wow.
It's...
we accidentally, I accidentally hit the wrong button, Wayne, so I guess people are going to have to watch the rest of the program on.
Did we go off?
We were live streaming until that point. I meant to share a different screen because I wanted to show some different pictures, and then it just
well,
So
That's it.
that's okay. That's okay. We got most of the information in there, and we'll finish this
Sure.
up